Hey everyone! Thanks so much for clicking on this video. If you're someone who loves learning about incredible animals, the kind of creatures that shaped entire continents and cultures, then you're in exactly the right place. Today, we're going to take a deep dive into one of the most powerful, most iconic, and most historically significant animals to ever walk the earth. We're talking about the bison. Now, before we get into everything you need to know about this magnificent beast, do me a quick favor. If you enjoy content like this, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now. It only takes a second, it's completely free, and it helps us keep making videos like this one for you. Also, make sure you tap the bell icon so you never miss a new upload. Alright, with that said, let's jump right in. The bison is a large, heavily built bovine mammal belonging to the genus Bison within the family Bovidae, which also includes cattle, goats, sheep, and antelope. There are two living species of bison that exist in the modern world. The first is the American bison, scientifically known as bison, which roams the grasslands, prairies, and open woodlands of North America. The second is the European bison, known as Bison bonacis, sometimes called the wisent, which inhabits the temperate forests and mixed woodland regions of Europe. Both species are remarkable survivors, having endured ice ages, mass hunting, habitat destruction, and near total extinction, only to be brought back through dedicated conservation efforts that continue to this day. The American bison is the animal most people picture when they hear the word bison. It is the largest land mammal in North America, with mature bulls standing roughly 6 feet tall at the shoulder and weighing anywhere from 900 to over 2,000 pounds. Cows are considerably smaller but are still powerfully built animals, typically weighing between 800 and 1,000 pounds. The American bison is characterized by its enormous blocky head, a massive hump of muscle over the shoulders, a thick beard of dark fur hanging from the chin and throat, and a dense, woolly coat that is heaviest on the front half of the body. The hindquarters are leaner and covered in shorter hair, giving the bison a distinctive front-heavy silhouette that sets it apart from virtually every other large herbivore on the continent. There are two recognized subspecies of the American bison. The plains bison is the more commonly known variety, once numbering in the tens of millions across the vast interior grasslands stretching from the Appalachian foothills all the way to the Rocky Mountains and from central Canada deep into Mexico. The wood bison, the other subspecies, is somewhat larger and darker, with a taller, more squared-off hump and less hair on the forelegs. Wood bison historically occupied the boreal forests and wetland meadows of northern Canada and Alaska. Both subspecies are grazers by nature, feeding primarily on grasses, sedges, and herbaceous plants, though they will occasionally browse on shrubs, twigs, and leaves when grass is scarce, or when winter snow blankets the ground. The European bison, or wisent, differs from its American cousin in several notable ways. The wisent tends to have a slightly taller but less massive body, longer legs, and a less pronounced shoulder hump. Its coat is generally less shaggy, and it carries itself with a posture that appears somewhat more upright. Unlike the American bison, which is an animal of open plains and prairies, the European bison is fundamentally a forest dweller. It feeds on a wider variety of vegetation, including bark, acorns, and the leaves and shoots of forest trees, in addition to grasses and herbs. The wisent was driven to extinction in the wild by the early 20th century due to centuries of hunting and habitat loss across Europe. But captive breeding programs based on a small number of surviving individuals in zoos have since allowed the species to be reintroduced into forests in Poland, Belarus, Romania, and several other European nations. Bison are herd animals by nature, and their social structures are both complex and flexible. Cow-calf groups form the core of bison society. These herds consist of adult females, their calves from the current year, and juveniles from previous years. These groups can range from a few dozen individuals to several hundred, depending on the season and the availability of food and water. Bull bison, on the other hand, tend to be more solitary or form smaller bachelor groups outside of the breeding season. During the rut, which typically occurs in late summer, mature bulls join the cow-calf herds and compete fiercely for mating opportunities. Bull bison during the rut are among the most dangerous animals in North America. They engage in dramatic displays of dominance that include bellowing vocalizations so deep and loud they can be heard for miles, wallowing in dirt to coat themselves in dust and scent, and head-to-head clashing with rival males. These collisions between two massive bulls, each weighing well over a ton, are staggeringly powerful events. The thick bone structure of the bison's skull and the massive muscles of the hump and neck are evolutionary adaptations specifically suited to absorbing and delivering these tremendous impacts. Bison calves are typically born in the spring after a gestation period of roughly 9 to 9.5 months. Newborn calves are a distinctive reddish-orange color, earning them the affectionate nickname of red dogs among ranchers and wildlife observers. Within hours of being born, a bison calf can stand and walk, and within days it can keep pace with the herd. This rapid development is critical for survival, as young calves are vulnerable to predation by wolves, grizzly bears, and coyotes. The mother bison is fiercely protective of her calf and will charge at any perceived threat without hesitation. As the calf matures over its first several months of life, its coat gradually darkens from the reddish-orange of infancy to the deep chocolate brown that characterizes adult bison. From a physical standpoint, bison are far more athletic than their bulky appearance might suggest. Despite their enormous size, bison are capable of running at speeds of up to 35 to 40 miles per hour, making them significantly faster than most humans and many other large mammals. They are also surprisingly agile, able to make sharp turns at full speed and to leap over obstacles as high as 6 feet. Bison are strong swimmers and will readily cross rivers and streams when moving between grazing areas. Their thick winter coats are so well insulated that snow can accumulate on their backs without melting, a testament to the effectiveness of their fur as a barrier against the brutal cold of the northern plains and boreal forests. The ecological importance of the bison cannot be overstated. As large-scale grazers, bison play a keystone role in the grassland ecosystems they inhabit. Their grazing patterns promote the growth of a diverse array of plant species by preventing any single type of grass from becoming dominant. When bison move through an area and crop the vegetation down, they create space and sunlight for smaller, less competitive plants to flourish. Their hooves churn the soil, breaking up compacted earth and creating small depressions that capture and hold rainwater, which in turn benefits insects, amphibians, and other small organisms. Bison dung serves as a vital source of nutrients for the soil and provides habitat for dung beetles and other invertebrates, which in turn become food for birds and small mammals. The wallows that bison create by rolling in the dirt become small, temporary wetlands after rainfall, supporting unique micro-communities of plants and animals that would not otherwise exist in the surrounding grassland. The historical and cultural significance of the bison, particularly in North America, is profoundly deep. For thousands of years before European contact, the indigenous peoples of the Great Plains and surrounding regions built their entire civilizations around the bison. The animal provided virtually everything needed for survival. Its meat was a primary food source, eaten fresh or dried into pemmican and jerky for long-term storage. The hides were tanned and used for clothing, moccasins, tippis, blankets, and shields. Sinew from the bison was used as thread and bowstring material. Bones were carved into tools, weapons, utensils, and ornaments. Even the dried dung, known as buffalo chips, served as a crucial fuel source on the treeless plains where firewood was scarce. The bison was not merely an economic resource for these peoples, but a sacred animal, deeply woven into their spiritual beliefs, ceremonies, art, and identity. The near destruction of the American bison in the 19th century stands as one of the most dramatic episodes of wildlife devastation in recorded history. At the beginning of that century, an estimated 30 to 60 million bison roamed the interior of North America. By the late 1880s, fewer than 1,000 remained. This catastrophic decline was driven by a combination of factors, including the westward expansion of European American settlers, the construction of the Transcontinental Railroad, the commercial hide trade, and a deliberate military strategy by the United States government to undermine the Plains Indian nations by destroying their primary resource. Professional hunters slaughtered bison by the millions, often taking only the hides or tongues and leaving the rest of the carcass to rot on the prairie. The landscape was littered with bones. The near extinction of the bison was an ecological, cultural, and moral catastrophe of immense proportions. The story of bison conservation is, however, one of the great success stories in the history of wildlife management. By the turn of the 20th century, a small number of dedicated conservationists, ranchers, and organizations began working to save the species from total extinction. Captive herds were established, protective legislation was enacted, and reserves were set aside specifically for bison. The American Bison Society, founded in 1905, played a pivotal role in these early efforts. Over the following decades and into the 21st century, bison populations have steadily recovered. Today, there are approximately 500,000 bison in North America, though the vast majority of these are in commercial herds managed for meat production. Only around 30,000 are considered wild or conservation herds living in national parks, wildlife refuges, and tribal lands. Efforts continue to expand the range and genetic diversity of wild bison populations, and many indigenous nations are actively involved in restoring bison to their ancestral lands as both an ecological and cultural imperative. The European bison has undergone a parallel journey of near extinction and recovery. By 1927, the wisent was completely extinct in the wild, with only 54 individuals surviving in captivity. Through meticulous breeding programs and careful reintroductions, the European bison population has grown to over 6,000 individuals today, with free-ranging herds established in several countries. The Białowieża Forest, straddling the border of Poland and Belarus, is the most famous stronghold of the wisent and is considered one of the last remaining primeval forests in Europe. Bison also hold significant relevance in modern agriculture and sustainable land management. Bison meat is leaner and higher in protein than beef, and it is lower in fat and cholesterol, making it an increasingly popular choice among health-conscious consumers. Bison ranching has grown considerably in recent decades, and advocates argue that bison are better suited to the North American landscape than domestic cattle. Bison require less intensive management, are more resistant to many diseases that afflict cattle, and their grazing behavior is more compatible with the health of native grassland ecosystems. Some ranchers and conservationists have championed the idea of rewilding portions of the Great Plains with bison, envisioning a future in which large herds once again move freely across vast stretches of restored prairie. In terms of their behavior and intelligence, bison are more complex than they are often given credit for. They have excellent memories and can remember the locations of water sources and seasonal grazing grounds across enormous territories. They communicate through a range of vocalizations, body postures, and scent markings. Mother-calf bonds are strong and enduring, and the herd as a whole displays coordinated behaviors during migration, defense, and feeding that suggest a sophisticated level of social awareness. The bison is, in every sense, a monumental animal. It is a creature of raw physical power, ecological significance, cultural depth, and historical drama. Its story encompasses the full spectrum of humanity's relationship with the natural world, from deep reverence and sustainable coexistence to reckless destruction and, ultimately, the hard-won effort of restoration. The bison stands today not just as a species that was pulled back from the brink, but as a living symbol of resilience, wildness, and the enduring possibility of making things right. And that, everyone, is the story of the bison. What an extraordinary animal, right? I hope you learned something new today and that you came away from this video with a deeper appreciation for just how remarkable these creatures truly are. Now, if you enjoyed this video, please take a moment to smash that like button. It really does help more than you might think, because every single like tells the algorithm that this video is worth sharing with more people who love animals and nature just like you do. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. We put out content like this on a regular basis, covering the most fascinating animals, the wildest stories from the natural world, and the kind of deep dives that you just won't find anywhere else. And finally, I'd love to hear from you in the comments section down below. Tell me, what's your favorite fact about bison? Have you ever seen one in person? Or is there another animal you'd like us to cover in a future video? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and I'll do my best to read and respond to as many of them as I can. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care!